Hello, NFL fans. This is Tom Pollen for NFL Jackson Pigskins on Atlanta Sports Unlimited. As you know, Dave Holcomb wasn't going to be with us today. We took last week off. And just some news from the Dave Holcomb front is they have welcomed a baby boy into the world, Thomas Gabriel Holcomb. So congratulations, Dave. It's wonderful. He had some pictures on his Facebook account, and just his wife looks wonderful. She did a great job as far as delivery, and they both were beaming in these pictures. And you got to say, it was really wonderful. It's great to see those pictures, and congratulations to Dave. Amazing. I remember I first kind of met Dave when we were writing for Football Nation, and he was just kind of finishing up college. And now here he's a dad. I'll be darned. They just grow up so quick, don't they? So that's what we have. Congratulations, Dave. Not here today. We don't know if he'll be here next week or not. Still, we're going to play this kind of week by week. So it's going to have an interesting show for you today. Of course, we're in the tough part of the off season now, where it's kind of hard to talk about teams and what they're doing and how teams are coming together, considering that this is OTAs. You don't see much in OTAs. However, it's the first time you get to see this group of players together. And I do want to talk about that quite a bit. I also have something I want to talk about first that happened that, again, we weren't able to talk about last week because we weren't on the air. But I want to talk about this new kickoff rule, what it means, how coaches and players react to it, and what could be some of the consequences of this. So we're going to talk kickoff rule. Then we'll go into some of the Falcons OTAs. I've been looking at a lot of the news over the past week and seeing some of the reactions that reporters have had coming out of Falcons camp, what they've seen, what they, how they feel, some of the speculations. And we will go over that pretty in depth. As I said, we got some great fans who follow this show. And I know there's going to be a lot of comments, a lot of thoughts about how this Falcon team shapes up at this point of the year. So first, before we get into all that, I want to get into the show's sponsor, Prize Picks. Go into Prize Picks and get their app or go in online, and they will match up to $100 of your first deposit. So if you go in, sign up, deposit $100, they will match that to $100. You will have $200 to play with, which, I can't argue with. I don't think anybody can argue with. I always, extra money, nobody's going to argue with. But take a look at the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code ASU. That supports the show. That lets Prize Picks know that you were sent to them by Atlanta Sports Unlimited and Jackson Pigskins, our show on Saturdays. Some of the great things on Prize Picks this week is you got the the NBA Finals, which the Nuggets and the Miami Heat, and a lot of people are picking the Nuggets to win that. So we'll see how that goes. Nuggets won game one. We have the NHL Finals starting tonight. Vegas Golden Knights against the Florida Panthers. And you can also do player props on on the coming 2023 NFL season. So, quarterbacks, How are they going to throw? How many yards are they going to throw for? You can go plus or minus on that. You go plus or minus on receiving yards, plus or minus on rushing yards. So there's a lot of options on Prize Picks. And I'm going to give you one of them right now, a features pick for the 2023 NFL season. And Desmond Ridder at quarterback. He is being projected out for 2,575.5 yards. So you can either go below or above, and we'll see how Desmond Ridder performs with his new offense this season. And excuse me, it's been a rough night. I'm sorry, folks. But that's why we always have coffee here. Liquid life. So, but take a look at Prize Picks because it's interesting, and I give some more Prize Picks for the upcoming 2023 NFL season for every show. So, kind of tempt you there and see what kind of thoughts you have on 2023. One of the thoughts I have on 2023, and I think, and from what I've been reading, coaches and players seem to be in close to universal agreement on, is that this new kickoff rule is terrible. They hate it. I hate it. In case you've been either on vacation or haven't been paying attention the last couple of weeks, or you maybe had a great holiday. As a matter of fact, just to say, I hope everybody had a wonderful Memorial Day. I know every Memorial Day, I think about my grandfather lost his life in World War II. So it is a day where we remember our loved ones who gave their lives in defense of freedom, defense of this country. And it's a, it means a lot. I think it's one of the more meaningful holidays on the calendar for individuals, for regular people. So I hope everybody, had a chance to think back on some of that this last Monday. But this new rule is, for some reason, it seems like the NFL is going to outlaw kickoffs at some point. It's just, it's what they're heading for, and it's very frustrating to watch. But essentially, if you catch a, if a return man catches a kickoff behind the 25-yard line, he can fair catch the ball. And the offense starts on the 25. So basically what you have now is, instead of the ball having to be caught in the end zone or going into the end zone, and the offense starts on the 25, kick returner can catch the ball at any point behind the 25-yard line, call for a fair catch, and it will be placed at 25, and the offense will start. Special teams coaches hate this. Players, as I said, have hated it. I have not seen anything online where anybody says that they enjoy this rule and think that this is a good rule. The only people who think this is a good rule are the owners and Roger Goodell. Apparently, when they started talking about this rule in their meetings a couple of weeks ago, it was a 16-16 split among the owners about whether to implement this or not. And that was before Goodell got started and started twisting arms behind the scenes, which he's very good at doing, fantastic at doing. And by the time he got done, he got this rule passed. It's surprising not surprising, because Goodell has that kind of power. They've already come up, and they also came up at that same meeting and verified that they could flex Thursday night games, which again is another terrible rule. Goes against it. It makes players. It puts players in danger because forcing them to play on a second Thursday night within a season is unfair to a player. That's rough to recover. And yeah, you get that extra time after the Thursday night, but you're going to see more injuries because of that. And I'm not even going to go into how that affects the fans because Dave and I talked about that 2 weeks ago. Fans who pre-plan going to games and all of a sudden their plans are out the window because the NFL has flexed their game to Thursday or taken their Thursday game out of that slot and moved it to Sunday, which is rough either way. Unfair to fans, unfair to players. And my point is the fact that the NFL owners come out after this meeting and say, well, it's all about player safety that we are implementing this kickoff rule. It's player safety, which is bull to me, BS, because they're willing to let players play on 5 days rest. Well, you can't do a proper preparation for a game when you're playing on a Thursday. You're cutting it one full practice out of the mix. You're cutting a padded practice out of the mix. You got time to install the game plan and do a walkthrough. So, and players are creatures of habit. I don't think they're ready to play on Thursdays. It's unnatural for them to want to be playing on a Thursday night. So, but the owners say that this is what they want to do. Too many concussions still on kickoffs, even though moving the onside or the moving kickoffs up to the 25 instead of the 20. That rule, that was supposed to help solve concussions. And now we got this rule that, they're going to find a way around it. See, the NFL coaches and players, they're not stupid. And they found a way around this. Last time the NFL made a rule change and, moving the ball 25 instead of the 20 to start an offense on a kickoff. Well, kickers got very good at shorting the goal line on kickoffs and forcing teams to return anyway, which, considering that you're forcing a return team to get the ball to the 25, is not an easy thing. It's tough to return a kick, back to the 20. That's why you had fair catches at that point, because the 20-yard line wasn't easy. Now the rule changed to get the ball, gives the ball to the offense at the 25. Well, that becomes more difficult for a team, even though the coverage team isn't getting a running start. They still get downfield, and it's a tough thing for players to make that comeback. But now, so the NFL has decided that they're going to go back to the college rule. Colleges allow fair catch kickoffs on the field behind the 25-yard line, and then they go from there. And another problem I have with that is the NFL didn't start becoming what the NFL is now until they went away from college rules. When the NFL first started, it was all about college rules. They followed the college rule book. Of course, nobody respected the NFL at that time, back in 1920. If you started playing football at that point, you were a blue collar worker, or you couldn't get through college, or you didn't have a degree to fall back on. And, NFL players were looked down on. Professional football players were looked down on. And for the longest time, the NFL followed that college rule book. Well, in 1932, the NFL played, they needed to play a championship game to decide the league champion between the Chicago Bears and Portsmouth Spartans. God, I can't talk this morning. Portsmouth later moved to Detroit and became the Detroit Lions. But a blizzard really made Wrigley Field unplayable for that championship game. So they moved the game indoors to the Chicago Stadium. And a couple of things that happened in that game, because the stadium wasn't wide enough to accommodate a football field, they moved the hash marks in 10 yards from the sideline. And during the game, Bronco Nagurski, legendary fullback for the Bears, faked a plunge, dropped back, and leaped up through a touchdown pass to Red Grange. That was the winning score for the Bears in that game. Why was that so much of an impact? Because the NFL, they filled the Chicago Stadium. It was an exciting game. And the light bulb went on above the heads of all the NFL owners that we got something we can do here to get away from the college rules. We are going to allow quarterbacks, or at that time it was tailbacks, to pass from anywhere behind the line of scrimmage. You do not have to pass. You do not have to be 5 yards back from the line of scrimmage to pass. And again, like the college game at that time, you had the hash marks very close to the sidelines. So you were kind of committed to running plays in one direction because of the way the hash marks were placed. And it made it tough on offenses because defenses could overload to the wide side of the field instead of the close side. So the NFL, for the first time in their history, got away from the college rule book. Decided that, again, passers could throw the ball from anywhere behind the line of scrimmage. And they moved the hash marks farther in on the field to make it tougher for the defenses to know which direction the play was going. All of a sudden, an offense could run plays to either side of the center. And it opened up offense. The NFL was looking to open up offense even then in 1933. Even then, they were looking to open up their offenses. And that did it. And they got away from the college rule book, and they never looked back. They stayed away from the college rule book, again, till last week when he implemented this rule. And not to say that the NFL is going back to those times, back in the 1930s where, the game was just completely different. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's not a good idea to go backwards. It's not. You got to keep looking to the future. But the owners, I think for the owners, they're trying to keep themselves away from any liability issues that might crop up from kickoffs, anything that happens on kickoffs, concussions that happen on kickoffs. So they're trying to lessen their liability. But this isn't the way to do it. And remember that every decision that NFL owners make regarding rules always has unintended consequences. As I say, the unintended consequences from the rule changes a couple of years ago for kickoffs was that kickers started learning how to kick shorter in front of the goal line and forced kickoff returners to run the ball back. Forced them to try to get to the 25. And again, that's a rough thing to do. Kickoff return units are very strong in the NFL. They're tough to beat. And you have to have an excellent returner, speed and vision, who can return a ball consistently past the 25. So you're forcing teams into a handicap because they couldn't start their offense as far forward as they used to. But what's going to be the unintended consequences of this rule? Give me your comments. Let me see. What do you think are the unintended consequences of this rule? How are the players, how are the coaches going to get around this? I have a thought, of course. I always have a thought. But I won't be surprised to see NFL teams start taking more of a line drive kick. Instead of getting the ball high up in the air and allowing a returner to get a beat on the ball and make the catch, why not try more line drive kicks? Get something that gets the ball in front of the returner, something that might bounce before it gets to the returner. Because now, again, you are forcing a return. Not only are you forcing a return, you're making a more difficult play for a kickoff returner. If anybody has ever watched a player try to recover a fumble and run with it, you know how slippery the ball is, how unpredictable the ball is when it starts rolling on the turf, when it starts bouncing. That's why they always recommend for recovering a fumble, just fall on it. Don't let the ball move anywhere. Fall on it. Onside kicks, fall on the ball. Don't worry about returning it. Just fall on it. Well, a return man can't fall on the ball, or else they're going to be starting their offense from between the 5-10 yard line. You cannot fall on the ball. You have got to try and pick that ball up and return it. And, the football being an oblate spheroid, which is the technical term for the shape of the football, that spheroid tends to bounce in crazy directions. And I could see return men having trouble picking up the ball. I could see return men. Well, one thing you get is return men who are going to be trying to pick up the ball, trying to move with the ball, but they don't have the same vision downfield. A ball kickoff right now, they get a chance to cheat, get a chance to look downfield, see how the blocking is set up. If it's coming at a line drive, it's going to bounce coming up to you. You've got to concentrate on the football. You're not going to see the lanes until maybe a second or two later that you would have seen on a standard kickoff. You're going to make it tougher to field. You're going to give the kickoff coverage team maybe more of a chance to recover a ball. It's not going to be like an onside kick where you had a chance to you're looking for the front men to make a play on the ball on a kick returning team. But still, you are forcing the return man to make a difficult play, a more difficult play. I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen as the season goes on, as the coaches get used to this rule, because they don't like it. I've seen kickoff returner men who say that they are not going to fair catch anything that is on the field that is within the goal line in the 25. They will not be fair catching. They will return. So, and of course that they can't necessarily say that. They would have to, it's got to be okay with the coaches. But a lot of these coaches don't like it. They think that they need to return these kicks. They want to return these kicks. It can be an exciting play. Kickoff return can blow a game open, can change the course of a game if it's done well. You're taking that away from a team. And to conclude this, I think the NFL coaches are going to find a way around it. The NFL owners don't think about these things. They don't think about the unintended consequences. Coaches are great at thinking of ways to get around the rules. So, owners, they don't get paid to think. They get paid to make money. And Roger Goodell gets paid to make money. And if Roger Goodell says that this is going to help save you money, help make you money, that's how he works. That's how the NFL owners works. Let's see what the coaches and players come up with. I'm going to be interested to watch that as we get into the preseason. All right, let's get to our main topic of the show. OTAs have started. The Falcons are in their second session of OTAs. And main thing about OTAs is you're not going to get a lot of insight into what's happening with players, how some of your free agents are going to perform, how your rookies are going to perform. They're not interested in that. Not right now. Tony, good to see you. Good afternoon. So, finally got one of our regulars out. So, by the way, Tony, I just got done talking about the kickoff rules. So if you want to chime in on that, go ahead. But going into OTAs now. And basically all you're accomplishing here in OTAs is you're getting all your new players, all your free agent signees, all your draft picks, and you're getting them all together to kind of get to know each other. This is a way for your team to kind of coalesce, gel. I know what your teammates are about. And that's the main thing you're accomplishing here in OTAs. Now, mini camps start on the 13th of June. And not that we get a lot of news coming out of mini camps that makes a lot of difference, because everybody's a hero in mini camp. Everybody's a hero in OTAs. That's the thing. Undrafted free agents. This guy's got a real potential to make the team because he's but that's mini camp, that's training camp, that's OTAs. Tony asked the question, did you see any of vids of yesterday's open practice at Mercedes-Benz Stadium? No, I didn't, Tony. I had a lot of personal business I had to take care of yesterday. A lot of things that really took up a lot of my time, took up a lot of my thought process. So I didn't get to see it. I've done quite a bit of reading on what happened, what was at camp. Basically, the players having fun. I heard Jeff Okudah made a heck of a play on a pass, knocked it away, and Grant was able to finish off the play with an interception. So I did hear about that. And it's, as I say, with Okudah, it's good to know that he is here and means business, because I think he's going to be a key to this Falcons secondary this season. And you like to see, again, you're not seeing anything that might translate into the season, but you like to see guys who are coming in ready to show that they can make a difference. And that's one of the things Okudah did yesterday. And it's fun. It's fun when you get to see that thing. I did see a lot of the players were mingling with the fans, kind of, at the side, along the wall, signing autographs, and letting the fans get to know them, giving the fans a chance to recognize them, meet them. And again, another thing, connecting with the fans. That's always a fun part of OTAs. Your new players, everybody who's new on your team, all your new draftees, all your free agents, get a chance. Your fans get a chance to meet them. Your fans get a chance to see, what all the uproar was about. Why do we bring this guy in? Well, you can tell. You get to look at it right there. So I do like that. One of the things that came out of these OTAs that I've been reading about. Oh, okay, Tony, you're going to be my co-host today, Tony. Yes, he did. Okudah doesn't have a chip on his shoulder. He has a boulder on his shoulder all the way. Detroit just gave him away for a 5th-round draft pick. I agree. That's a great way of putting it, Tony. He has a boulder on his shoulder. I love that. I'm going to start using that. Yes, definitely. He's got things to prove. And he went into it ready to prove it yesterday. And you got to love that. So I love it when a player gets that chip, gets a little, just starts to, he wants to, prove to his former team that, hey, I really am something. You missed. I'm going to show you how good I can be. That's always a great thing. What do you think, Zozo? Zozo's here, and she feels the same way. Always, it's good to see players coming into camp who just, want to show something, really don't feel settled. They want to be, they want to prove that it's a prove it thing. So it's good to see Okudah. Boulder on the shoulder. Love that, Tony. But one of the things I've been reading is that talk about the Falcons offense, and one of the things that Arthur Smith is going for is more of a positionless offense, which I find fascinating. I think it's interesting that he wants to do that. I think he's got the players to do it. Talking about maybe either, on one play you split maybe Kyle Pitts and Drake London out. You have both Algier and Robinson in the backfield. Maybe one of those, one of them goes in motion. Then they line up differently the next play. So basically, and I forget which player said it, I think it was Algier, said, you're going to have to look for us on every play. It's not going to be a standard position by position offense where, we have our slot receiver, we have our outside receiver, split out. We have a running back, we have the blocking tight end, the receiving tight end. It's not going to be like that. They might use Pitts as a wide receiver. They might use Robinson as a receiver, as a slot receiver. Algier might go through the line and be, a short yardage kind of guy. Algier doesn't have the speed to make it as a wide receiver, but, that's one of the things you got to look for. And I think it's an interesting concept for me, and I will be interested to see how this develops as camp goes on. This positionless offense that they were talking about at this OTA session, because, and maybe this is what Terry Fontenot and Arthur Smith, this is what their draft strategy has been. My draft strategy, again, is always build from the inside out, because you can't do anything if your offensive line is not protecting, is not run blocking, and you can't do anything if your defensive line is not getting pressure. So, I'm an old timer. I've always been the inside out philosophy, because that's the way we did it in our day. You youngins, we always built from the inside out. So no, I don't, but it appears that maybe Fontenot and Smith, there's a madness to their method, madness to their method. And we'll see how that goes. We'll see how it develops. Again, one of the drawbacks to me right now is you have a young quarterback. You have a second-year quarterback. You're going to be asking him to make a lot of decisions. You're going to be asking him to make a lot of decisions at the line. As far as seeing what's lined up against him, making reads. If you have guys in maybe alternate positions in your offense, reads are going to be different. You're going to be looking at the defense a different way based on where your strengths are lined up on that particular play, where you feel your offensive strengths are lined up on that particular play. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think you're forcing Ritter to make some decisions. Is he ready to make those decisions? Is he ready to be that quarterback? I think they've given Ritter a lot of weapons to be successful with. I do like that. So it's going to be interesting how this positionless offense develops. Because, as I said, I only read briefly about it. I know Tyler Algier mentioned it, kind of talked about it. So I want to see how this develops as we go. Tony Wright, again, he had a question about cornerbacks, the secondary. And let's talk about the secondary for a little bit. A.J. Terrell, Jeff Okudah, Mike Hughes, DeAndre Alford, Darren Hall. So, you got a lot of decisions to make in this secondary. I think A.J. Terrell is still the leader of this secondary. And reading Pro Football Focus this past week, they seem to think that A.J. Terrell is can be one of the breakout players for this Falcons defense this year. A guy who can really make a difference again. He had a down year last year, but again, I don't blame all that on A.J. Terrell. It's tough covering a receiver when you have to cover that receiver for 3.5 to 4 seconds. All right. If your defensive line is not getting to the quarterback, it's tough to do. So I know A.J. Terrell and Jeff Okudah, I could see them actually being the starters when we get into the regular season, when we get to week 1. So, but yeah, you got a lot of questions, and there's going to be a lot of competition in training camp between those guys to try and differentiate themselves and see what they can do, see what kind of secondary the Falcons have. I think it's way too early to speculate on how the secondary is going to take shape. You also have a new defensive coordinator with Ryan Nielsen. Couldn't remember the name for a second. New defensive coordinator Ryan Nielsen came over from the Saints, was their defensive line / assistant defensive coordinator. So it's going to be interesting to see how he sees this defense, how he wants to play this defense. From what I've seen, what I've read, he likes these 4-down lineman concept. He likes the 4-man front concepts. Probably is not going to play as many 3-man fronts with the 4 linebackers as Dean Pease did. So you're going to be seeing a little bit of a defensive philosophy. I think the Falcons have the players to adjust. I don't think it's going to be difficult. I don't think he's going to be asking the players to do things they can't, which is one thing you always have to watch out with coaches. But yeah, Clark Phillips III, a guy who was not considered a classic a defensive back, classic cornerback. Short, not as tall as you would like to see, but you never know. Can he react? Can he read and react? Read and react is everything. And DeMarco Helms, who I also drafted, we'll see how he comes in from Alabama. You got a lot of players you're going to have to you're going to have to evaluate. It's going to be interesting to see as mini camp gets going and as training camp gets going in the middle of July, how this starts to develop. Pantera makes a point on offense. Something that surprised me was how big Algier is. He's super thick. Looked like an 80s running back with giant shoulders. That's the thing about Tyler Algier. He's a heck of a running back. He did. According to Pro Football Focus, he was the best in the NFL in, after contact yards. This guy is just a tank, and he's going to get you a lot of short yards. My problem is he doesn't have the speed. But that's not to say that Tyler Algier is not going to be an important part of this offense. He is, along with Bijan Robinson. There's a lot of things you can do with this. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I did hear about how Tyler Algier is coming to camp. He is in shape and chiseled. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does and how they use Bijan Robinson off of Tyler Algier. Tony Wright agreed, Tom. We now have the defensive personnel and depth to play 4-down linemen. Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why Ryan Nielsen was brought in, because his philosophy fits what the Falcons do have here. It might be, defense is all about scheme. You can be a good player in a defense, not be as good in another defense because a scheme does not fit you. And that's one of the issues. Maybe the players weren't quite right for Dean Pease scheme. And I think Nielsen is going to be more interesting to see how he uses his men up front, and seeing how the pass pressure improves, because this is a guy who really made the Saints front scary as far as pass rush. And, and that's always something, as I said, I saw it before the draft, and I've been wanting to see it for 3 years now. I want to see the Falcons have some nasty on the defensive side of the ball, on the defensive line. I want to see some snarl as they go after these quarterbacks. That's one of the things I want to see out of Ryan Nielsen. Let's have some snarl out of these guys. And I think with his 4-down lineman concept, four-man front concept, that we might see more out of this defense than we've seen in the last couple of years. Better run protection and more opportunities to create pressure off the edge. So Tony Wright, going back to the safeties, our safeties, strong safety Richie Grant, free safety Jesse Bates. Yeah, I've heard Jesse Bates has been doing a heck of a job in OTAs too. Really impressing so far. Backups, DeMarco Helms, Jalen Hawkins. Yeah, I do believe, Tony, I will say they are. I like what I see this year out of their safeties. So you're going to have a lot of people competing for those jobs, but I think you got a good handle on the guys who might be in place when this season starts. Of course, we'll see how things develop over training camp. Makes a lot of difference in training camp to see how things develop, how things move. So one of the things I'm going to want to see as things progress this summer, and I haven't seen his name mentioned much, but his name's been kind of at the top of my mind, is Arnold Ebiketie. And, you picked this guy up in the second round last year, You bypassed some edge rush talent to take Drake London and go to try to fix your pass rush in the second round. And Ebiketie had a decent season, not a good season by my accounts. Showed that there is some work. He can be more than what he showed. Okay, Tony says a couple of content creators were saying how quick and sharp Ebiketie looks at practice. That's great. I'm glad to hear it, if he is, because I think he needs to show more that he is ready to take a regular spot on this defense, take a regular spot on that defensive front. I want Ebiketie to succeed. It's funny. I saw somebody quote that Joey Bosa had 3 fewer sacks than the entire Falcons team last year. You can't have that. You cannot have that. You cannot have one player on an opposing team almost outplay your entire defense as far as sacks. That's just ridiculous. And I think Ebiketie is going to have a lot to do with the success or failure of the Falcons' defensive line coming up this next season. Now, Pro Football Focus, again, brought it up, 28 pressures and 303 snaps. Now, my problem is pressures, in my opinion, are overrated. I don't care about pressures. Okay. Pressures means you force the quarterback out of the pocket. He still can complete the pass. He still can get the ball away if he doesn't have a receiver. Now, yeah, you put pressure on him, but you haven't really impacted anything. Quarterback knockdowns. Well, yeah, you knocked down the quarterback, but did he complete the pass? Quarterback knockdown means nothing if the quarterback has already completed a 10 to 15 yard pass downfield. It means nothing. Empty stats, and something to watch out for is always empty stats. I hate empty stats. They don't do anything. Hurries and knockdowns, pressures and knockdowns do not put an offense behind the chains. They don't force third and longs. They don't force third and 15s, third and 16s. You can be getting all the pressures you want, and the offense is still moving down the field against you, which is, I've never counted knockdowns, pressures as an impact for a defense. And Ebiketie needs to turn, and I did read where he is aware he needs to turn some of those pressures. Excuse me, please. He needs to turn some of those pressures into sacks. He needs to finish. And it's usually one of the things that, for a defensive lineman, for an edge rusher, it's the toughest thing to kind of, it's the toughest hump to get over when you're an edge rusher, is turning hurries, turning pressures into sacks. Knowing where the quarterback is going to go when you've rushed him, when you've chased him out of the pocket, having an anticipation for what the quarterback is going to do. And I hope that's one of the things that Ebiketie brings to the game this year that, weren't part of his arsenal last year. Because I think he can be a quality pass rusher, but you've got to finish. And I did read where he said that, yeah, he left a lot of money on the table last year, and he wants to pick up some of that money this year. Well, it's all wide open for you, Arnold. We are there for you. And I am in your corner. So I want to see him make that jump to being he doesn't have to be Joey Bosa. He doesn't have to be, he doesn't have to give you the quality of the Eagles' defensive line. All he's got to do is put some consistent pressure on, and again, make plays where you put the defense behind the chains. Put the offense behind the chains. Make life tough for the offense. That's all I'm looking for out of Ebiketie this year, out of Calais Campbell. And maybe bring this up real quick. Calais Campbell is not going to be a difference maker on this defense as much as he's going to be a guy that is going to be like a third and long, second and long specialist. A guy who's going to come in and be that guy who can be somebody that an offense has to account for when they are in passing situations. And that's not to say Calais Campbell is going to be good. He's 2 years removed from a Pro Bowl. He's doesn't get to the quarterback as much anymore. It's going to be, I think Campbell is going to be a specialty pass rusher. Campbell is going to be a mentor to guys like Ebiketie to kind of give him some insight into how this all works, how it works to get to the quarterback, how you turn these pressures, turn these knockdowns into sacks, how you deal with offensive linemen. I think Campbell's main importance might be off the field or on the sideline this year more than it is on the field. I'm looking forward to seeing how he contributes on the field. But I do like what he brings to this team, and he's a team guy. I like to see what he brings to this team on defense, just as a mentor, as a guy who's done it and knows how to get it done, on the defensive line, how to make it happen. So, couple of things. Again, Tony talking about Arthur Smith's press conference yesterday. With the depth and overall talent on this team, they plan on playing 20 to 21 games. And Coach Smith wasn't talking about preseason games either. So I took from that huge things. Yeah, he's going to be pitting these guys against each other pretty heavy. I think Smith is going to be creating a lot of competition in this upcoming camp. Yeah, I look forward to it. I look forward to Smith really putting these guys through the paces. Now, you can't do it as well as you used to be able to, because as I say, going back in my day, we used to be able to hit every day of the week. We played in pads. We didn't have these wimpy unpadded practices. No, it's tougher to do today, but you can still put players through their paces and still try to get them where they need to be. So I want to see how this defense develops under Nielsen and see how some of these guys that they brought in, are they going to, is the preseason hype going to be worth it? Are we going to get what we need out of these guys? I love it. So, and three dirty. I don't think I've seen him before, but makes a comment that Algier runs a 4.640, Robinson runs a 4.4. That time difference will throw the defense off. Yeah, I agree. It will. Any kind of difference that you present to a defense makes it tougher for them to do their jobs. Makes it tougher for them to counter what you're doing on offense. I agree. Tony Wright says Campbell had 6.5 sacks. According to Pro Football Reference, Tony, Calais Campbell had 5.5 sacks. So you think he'll reach 8 sacks? I'm not so sure about that. Although, again, incredibly talented player, but going to be 37 this season. And that's kind of getting up in age for any football player, especially one who sees as much contact as Campbell has seen over the course of his career. Again, I would love to see Calais Campbell have a Pro Bowl season. Nothing would thrill me more. But you got to be realistic about it too. He's at a point in his career where probably can't play as much. You probably won't. You need to limit his downs. You don't want to have him gassed by the time you reach week 10, week 11, because he's not the same guy he was 5, 6 years ago. Players, it does happen where they lose a little stamina, lose a little endurance as they get up there in age. But again, I think Calais Campbell is going to be an important signing for the fact of what he brings to this team with experience and as a teacher and showing these guys what to do up and down the line. I love that. I think he's that kind of player. He's the kind of guy who will do that, who is a team guy. So I do like that. One more thing from Tony Wright. David Onyemata and Eddie Goldman are looking really sharp. I'm glad about Onyemata because they did invest some money in him, but Eddie Goldman, watch it. Eddie Goldman in Chicago took the COVID year off. Came back the following year, was not nearly as effective. That's why the Bears let him go. Signed by the Falcons and then retired. So he didn't play last year. And it's tough for a player to come back if he hasn't played in a full season, if he hasn't played the previous season. You find that with guys who hold out for an entire season. It doesn't work well. Not being involved in a full season is not a good thing. Not a good thing for a player. I question how effective Eddie Goldman is going to be with the Falcons. If he plays like he did during the early part of his career with the Bears, yeah, the Falcons have something special because Goldman is a brick. He is a wall in the defensive line. He will stop anybody. He's a great run stuff. You can't move him out of the middle. If he has that same focus, that same determination, that same physical shape, I would like to see, I'm all for Eddie Goldman having a great year this year. I'm not counting on it because of what I've seen from players who've taken time off before. From what I've seen from Eddie Goldman after he took a year off before. So we'll see. I'm looking, as the summer goes on, as we talk about this, it's going to be interesting to see how these guys progress. We're nearing the end of our time today. I do appreciate everybody being here with us. Remember, the sponsor of our show is Prize Picks. Go to Prize Picks. Use the promo code ASU. They will match up to even match up to $100 of your first deposit. So you're getting an extra $100. You're getting you're getting a lot of options to place player props on. As I say, you got the NHL finals starting, NBA finals is in full swing. You got NFL props, future props. Again, their future prop for the Falcons right now, as of today, Desmond Ridder, 2,575.5 passing yards. So over or under? What do you think? It's going to be interesting to see. Got the weapons to go over, that's for sure. So I will be fascinated to see how that progresses. But again, for Dave Holcomb, who is now the father of a baby boy, Thomas Gabriel Holcomb, and I am thrilled for him. I've seen pictures on Facebook of the child of his wife, and they are looking fantastic. So I would say for Dave Holcomb, This is Tom Pollen. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for following the show and being with us every week. And look forward to talking again next week. Have a great week, everyone.